You want to know the real secret to stopping toxic people. It's not about fighting back louder. It's not about proving yourself. And it's definitely not about letting them drain your energy. It's about mastering yourself, your presence, your boundaries, and the power you carry when you walk into a room. People only do to you what you allow. Toxic individuals thrive on weakness, hesitation, and the fear they think you have. But today, we flip the script today. You learn how to make toxic people think twice before they ever disrespect you again. Not by being cruel, not by being aggressive, but by being unshakable, confident. A person who commands respect without saying a single word. So if people have tried to manipulate you, underestimate you, or make you feel small, good, because after this they'll regret ever trying. Toxic people operate like emotional predators. They test your reactions first, they push buttons, they poke at insecurities, and the moment they see you flinch, whether it's anger, frustration, or hurt, they know exactly how to control you. When you lose emotional control, you hand them the power. They feed off your reactions like fuel because it reassures them that they have influence over your inner world. That is why the first and most powerful move you can make is emotional mastery. It's the silent armor that keeps toxic people guessing. When you control your internal state, you become unpredictable to them, and unpredictability makes people afraid to push further. Think about the most composed leaders, security professionals, or interrogators, Evy Poumpouras included. Their strength isn't in shouting or reacting. It's in how calm they remain when someone tries to shake them. Their face gives nothing away. Their body language reveals nothing. That neutrality is terrifying to manipulators because they can't decode it. They can't figure out what you're thinking, feeling, or planning to do next. It strips them of their strategy. The second they see your emotions stay steady, they realize you're not someone they can easily exploit. You become a person they can't read, can't manipulate, and can't control. Control doesn't mean suppressing emotions forever or pretending pain doesn't exist. It means choosing when and how those emotions show up, on your terms, not theirs. Your goal is to be responsive, not reactive. A reactive person fires back instantly without thinking because they feel attacked. A responsive person pauses, thinks, and then decides what response gives them the most power in that moment. That pause is where your strength lies. That pause is where toxic people start to worry. Sometimes silence is the strongest response. When someone tries to provoke you and you don't give them a single facial expression or emotional reaction, it forces them to sit with their own insecurity. They become the uncomfortable one. Toxic individuals are used to chaos. They rely on emotional outbursts because that's their playground. When you refuse to play, they lose interest or become intimidated by the level of discipline you demonstrate. Emotional control also protects your energy. Every reaction costs you something: time, mental peace, self-respect. Toxic people want to drag you into their storm because if you're in chaos with them, you can't see clearly. But when you keep your emotions steady, you stay rooted. You stay thinking logically, not emotionally. Power comes from clarity, and clarity only comes from calm. Learning this skill requires practice. Begin by observing your triggers instead of reacting to them. Ask yourself, why does this particular behavior bother me? What narrative am I telling myself that gives this person so much influence over me? Awareness is the first step to detachment. Once you detach emotionally from the person's behavior, their words lose their sharpness. They no longer penetrate, they just bounce off. Controlling your emotions doesn't mean letting someone disrespect you. You can assert boundaries firmly without raising your voice or showing anger. In fact, the quieter and more composed you are, the more seriously people take you. Toxic people expect emotional explosions. What they aren't prepared for is calm confidence, a steady tone, a clear statement, direct eye contact, and then walking away as if their attempt to break you didn't even register. In a world full of loud people trying to prove their dominance, the one who remains collected is the one who truly holds the power. Emotional control tells the world, I know who I am grounded, your behavior does not define me. It does not shake me, and it certainly does not dictate how I choose to show up. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are filters that protect what is valuable inside you. Toxic people often push limits because they want to see how much they can get away with. Every time you let a harmful behavior slide, you silently teach them that their actions are acceptable. They learn that your time, your emotions, and your peace are negotiable. And once they learn that, they won't stop. That's why boundaries must be clear, firm, and non-negotiable. They are not suggestions, they are standards. Setting boundaries begins with understanding your worth. When you know what you deserve, you stop tolerating what insults that value. Many people stay silent because they fear conflict or rejection. They worry that standing up for themselves might upset someone. But that mindset gives power to the very people who undermine you. You cannot expect respect from someone who has never been shown how to treat you. You teach others how to treat you by the boundaries you enforce, not the ones you talk about, the ones you hold. Boundaries are not about controlling other people's behavior. They are about controlling what you allow into your life. You can't stop someone from being toxic, but you can stop giving them access to you. When someone crosses the line, you don't argue, explain, or beg. You make a decision, you take action, you reduce contact, you say no, you remove privileges, whatever protects your peace. Your boundary loses all power the moment you allow someone to break it without consequence. People who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries. The only people who get angry when you set them are the ones who benefit from you having none. Toxic individuals will test your limits, especially when you first establish them. They might guilt trip you, act confused, accuse you of being difficult, or make you feel like you're overreacting. This is manipulation disguised as misunderstanding. Hold steady. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, they are showing you exactly who they are. There is strength in saying no, not as an apology, not followed by justification, just no. A simple, firm refusal communicates self-respect. When you stop explaining your boundaries, people start respecting them. Toxic people thrive when you over-explain because it gives them a place to argue and convince you otherwise. Short sentences, strong tone, eye contact, that's how you express power. Boundaries must exist in every area of your life, emotionally, physically, mentally, and even digitally. Maybe someone constantly dumps their negativity on you. Maybe they invade your personal space. Maybe they expect instant replies to their messages and get upset when you take time for yourself. All of these are situations where boundaries are necessary. Your peace must be prioritized. When someone drains your energy every time they show up, that's a sign that access needs to be restricted. One of the hardest truths is learning that some relationships cannot survive strong boundaries. Especially when those relationships were built on you always compromising yourself. But letting go is not losing, it is choosing yourself. The people meant for your life will meet you where you stand, not where you're forced to kneel. Creating boundaries may reduce the number of people in your life, but it will increase the quality of the ones who remain. When you set boundaries with quiet certainty, your presence begins to change. You walk differently, you speak differently. People feel the shift. They realize you're not someone they can easily take advantage of anymore. And that realization creates a natural distance between you and anyone who once fed off your tolerance but never offered respect in return. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of power. Most people believe power comes from speaking loudly, arguing more, or always defending themselves. But truly strong individuals understand that silence is a tool, a strategy that forces others to confront themselves. Toxic people crave attention, energy, and reaction. When you give them silence, you cut off their supply. You deny them the satisfaction of knowing they have influenced your emotions. Silence becomes a shield that protects your inner peace and a weapon that disrupts their ability to control the narrative. When someone is trying to provoke you, they are looking for a crack in your confidence. They want to see irritation, fear, or insecurity. But when you respond with silence, steady eye contact, neutral expression, and no emotional giveaway, you send a clear message: you don't get access to my emotions. That message shakes them because it means you hold power they can't touch. Toxic people hate what they can't influence. The moment you stop reacting, they lose their advantage. Silence also creates uncertainty. Humans are uncomfortable with the unknown. When someone pushes and you don't respond, they begin to question themselves. Did they get to you? Do you not care anymore? What are you thinking? What will you do next? That uncertainty makes them nervous. And nervous people stop attacking because suddenly they feel like they're the vulnerable ones. Using silence is not about being passive, it's about being intentional. Silence gives you the opportunity to observe. When you stop talking, you start noticing everything else: the micro expressions, the inconsistencies, the manipulation tactics. You hear what people really mean instead of what they say, and you learn to sort who deserves your energy from who only drains it. Silence reveals truth that noise tries to hide. Silence is also a test. When you stop explaining yourself, the right people will make the effort to understand you. The wrong ones will show their true colors by becoming aggressive, dismissive, or resentful. Toxic individuals only value conversations where they can dominate or control the emotional tone. When they can't, they panic. Their frustration exposes how fragile they actually are. Power makes noise when it's insecure and stays quiet when it's sure of itself. There is a discipline in learning when to speak and when to stay silent. Many people talk to fill the space because they fear what quiet moments might reveal. But confidence doesn't rush to fill silence. Confidence lets silence do the talking. When you pause before responding, people listen more carefully to what you choose to say next. Your words carry weight when silence comes before them, and those who underestimate you will suddenly realize that your silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Your silence is also a boundary. When someone has shown they do not listen, you stop giving them explanations. When someone repeatedly disrespects you, you stop giving them access. When someone tries to argue just to win, you stop engaging. Silence protects your dignity. It stops you from fighting battles that don't deserve you. It replaces emotional chaos with clarity and self-control. The most powerful people in the room are often the quietest, not because they have nothing to say, but because they choose not to waste their voice. You do not need to shout to be heard. You do not need to argue to be right. You do not need to react to prove your strength. Toxic people expect noise, but silence forces them to face their own weakness. People listen to what you say, but they believe what you do. Toxic individuals rely on inconsistency in others. They test you to see if your behavior will shift when they push hard enough. If your actions do not align with your words, they find your weakness and exploit it. That's why matching actions, not words, is essential. Power is not in making statements, it's in following through. When your actions reflect your boundaries, your standards, and your self-respect, people recognize that you mean exactly what you say. Consistency is intimidating to toxic people because it removes their leverage. They can no longer manipulate you with guilt, pressure, or emotional games. When you always respond the same way to disrespect, you build a reputation they can't challenge. They realize that you are not someone they can persuade into compromising your dignity. You become someone who stands firm even when it would be easier to bend, and that is what earns respect not just from others, but from yourself. One of the most powerful moves you can make is following through with consequences. If you say you won't tolerate a behavior, then don't. If someone crosses a line, take action without hesitation or repeated warnings. Toxic individuals pay attention to what works. If ignoring your boundary gets them rewarded, they'll continue. But if crossing your line always leads to a consequence: distance, loss of access, accountability, they quickly learn that you are not someone who can be played. This doesn't require aggression or confrontation. It requires discipline. You do not need to announce your power, you show it by acting decisively. You don't need to threaten someone before walking away. You simply walk. Your absence becomes your statement. Your silence becomes your authority. Every time you choose peace over chaos, you reinforce to yourself that you are in control. Confidence is built through consistent action. Consistency also builds trust not just with others, but within yourself. When you say you'll protect your peace and then allow someone to disrespect you, you break trust with yourself, and that internal damage is far more dangerous than anything an external person can do. But when you do exactly what you claim you will, you strengthen your identity, you prove to yourself that you are reliable, that you show up for your values, that you are someone worth respecting. Toxic people often weaponize apologies, promises, and temporary good behavior to regain control. They will promise change not because they want to grow, but because they want to keep access to you. If you allow your emotions to override your standards, you fall into the trap again. This is why your actions must be based on patterns, not words. Believe what people repeatedly do, not what they occasionally say. Patterns reveal truth. Consistency reveals character. There will be times when holding firm feels lonely, when you question whether you are being too strict or too cold. But remember, you are not responsible for managing other people's comfort. You are responsible for protecting your integrity. The people who genuinely value you will adjust and rise to meet your standard. The ones who only valued what they could take from you will fall away. Let them. Their departure is not a loss, it is proof that your strength is working. Matching actions to words communicates a message without you ever raising your voice. I respect myself too much to accept anything less than what I deserve. When people see that your behavior remains steady under pressure, they realize there is nothing they can say or do to shake you out of alignment with your values. You become a person who moves with purpose, who responds with intention, and who shows power not in noise but in consistency. Walking away is one of the most powerful actions you can take, especially when it's done with confidence and not fear. Most people stay in situations where they are being mistreated because they believe leaving means losing. They worry they might look weak or that the other person will think they won the situation. But the truth is the exact opposite. Walking away isn't retreat, it's reclaiming your power. It's saying, I choose myself over your chaos. It is the ultimate demonstration that someone no longer has control over your emotions, your attention, or your life. Toxic people want you trapped in engagement. They want an argument. They want you defending yourself. They want you proving your worth because all of that effort gives them significance. It shows them they still matter to you. But when you refuse to fight, when you leave without explaining or apologizing, they lose their grip. There is nothing more unsettling to a manipulator than realizing the person they once controlled no longer cares to participate. Walking away doesn't mean running from conflict. It means recognizing that not every battle is worth your energy. Some fights exist only to keep you stuck in a cycle where you are constantly reacting instead of living. When you make the deliberate choice to walk away, you break the cycle. You close the door that they kept trying to force open. And in that moment, you protect your peace with a level of strength that noise could never show. There is dignity in the silent exit. When you walk away with no dramatic announcements or emotional outbursts, you leave behind a mystery that toxic people cannot solve. They expected a reaction. They expected tears, explanations, or closure that they could twist into another opportunity for control, but you gave them nothing. That absence becomes the loudest message. You no longer exist in my space. They feel the weight of that message long after you have already moved on. Walking away also teaches you about your own resilience. Once you step out of a toxic environment, you start to see what you were blind to before. You see how much energy you were wasting trying to fix what was never your responsibility. You see how small you had to shrink just to keep the peace. Leaving shows you how powerful you truly are when you choose yourself over the fear of being alone. Peace becomes addictive, and once you feel that freedom, you promise yourself never to go backwards. Detach with confidence, not desperation. Do not wait for permission. Do not hope they will change just enough to make staying feel justified. When someone shows you repeatedly that they do not value you, the strongest answer is distance. Not arguments, not second chances, distance. The more you pull away, the clearer everything becomes. Clarity thrives in quiet spaces where manipulation no longer clouds your judgment. And yes, sometimes walking away means letting go of people you once cared deeply for. But keeping someone in your life who constantly hurts you is not love, it's self-abandonment. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is survival. It is courage. It is acknowledging that you deserve better than what someone is willing to give. The most powerful version of yourself emerges when you realize you are not afraid of losing anyone because you are done losing yourself. You stop chasing, explaining, waiting, hoping. You start moving forward, step by step, even if your voice shakes and your heart aches. Because deep down, you know that anyone who tries to break you does not deserve a place in your future. Walking away with power shows the world that you have mastered the greatest lesson. Not everyone is meant to continue the journey with you. But you will continue, you will rise, and you will never again allow someone to make you feel small in a life where you were meant to stand tall.